What's up, Internet? Have you ever woken up on a Monday filled with hope, optimism, and enthusiasm for what the week will bring you?
Oh yeah!
Because you have all these amazing things lined up. You think to yourself, this is the week I'm gonna start doing all of those things that I've been meaning to do.
It's gonna be good.
I'm gonna eat healthier, prepare and cook my own meal. I'm going to exercise more, maybe go to the gym 2 or 3 times this week, and maybe even throw in a couple of runs. And I'm finally gonna start reading every day. Nothing crazy, just 30 to 60 minutes every day. The next thing you know, it's Monday 5 p.m. and you feel like you're drained and exhausted because life is pulling you in a million different directions.
Everything hurts and I'm dying.
That gourmet meal that you wanted to prepare earlier in the morning seemed impossible, and now you're thinking that, hey, maybe eating cereal is not so bad. You're feeling exhausted and you only want to be on the couch, and the last thing you want to do right now is go to the gym. And when you get home, you're thinking that, hey, at least I'll try to read today, but you barely get through 3 pages of your book before you fell asleep. By the time Thursday evening rolls around, it seems like a lost cause. You've only accomplished a fraction of what you had originally set out to do. And once again, you spiral into the familiar abyss of existential dread and fear and self-loathing.
Who am I? I don't know. I guess I have a lot of things to ponder.
If you're lucky enough, by the time Sunday comes, you would have indulged in your punishing and self-destructive behavior to an extent that it disgusts you.
It's gross.
That you're willing to consider starting everything new again in the upcoming week. Maybe this time it will work out.
Just a fool's hope.
If this all sounds too familiar to you, stick around, because in this video, I'll be sharing 8 rules that people consistently break that lead them to fail when you're trying to build habits. If you're new here, my name is Trey, and this channel is all about self-improvement, and not just any kind of self-improvement. It is about serious self-improvement, as you can tell clearly from this serious shirt that I have on. So if you're interested in becoming a better person, then stick around and subscribe, because in my videos, I share with you ideas, strategies, and tactics on becoming better. Reason number 1 as to why people fail: a lack of structure. A lot of people have some plan, have an idea of a plan, but it's very vague. There's no specificity. A good plan with a good structure needs to be detailed. For example, it's not enough to just say, I would like to exercise more. You have to say where, when, with who, and what you're gonna do. The more specific you are, the easier it is for you. There is a concept called ego depletion, which states that your willpower or self-control is a limited resource that gets depleted over time as you use it. Think of the last time when you were exhausted from the day and it's late at night and you feel like you just simply have no more capacity to make any good decisions for yourself. And perhaps this might lead you to destructive behaviors such as staying up way too late, being on your phone for too long, or maybe you're eating junk food. That probably means that your willpower health bar is already empty. And this is where a good structure and a good plan can come into play, because the more specific and the more clear you are with something, the less thinking you have to do on the spot, and that you can actually just do the activity itself. Reason number 2, creating unnecessary friction for yourself when you're trying to build habit. This is something I see a lot of people doing. For example, the obvious one would be doing things when they are tired. You don't want to start reading right before bedtime if you find yourself just generally being exhausted at that point of time, because the last thing you want to do is to associate tiredness with reading. And of course, if you're tired and you're constantly falling asleep, chances are you're not going to be able to follow through and enjoy doing the activity itself. There's a more subtle way I see people doing this to themselves. Let's take reading for example. A lot of people want to read more, but when I tell them that they should consider using the Kindle, which is the device I use to read hundreds and hundreds of books over the years because it's a lot more convenient, people tend to push back, saying that they prefer physical books. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love physical books, but if you're excited about reading and then you have to wait 2 or 3 days for a book to arrive, that initial excitement might already be lost. And when it comes to building habits, it's important that you build on the momentum when inspiration or the excitement strikes. Ultimately, if your goal is to read more, then I think you should do whatever necessary that helps you to read more. And yes, using physical books can be a good reason and motivation for you to read more, but if it starts becoming a hindrance, then I think it's time to consider alternative strategies. Reason number 3, being overly ambitious. Look, I get it. I've been there multiple times myself. It's easy to get swept up in the initial wave of enthusiasm when you're trying to do or learn something new. But remember that anytime you're trying to introduce something new to your life, there's going to be a pretty steep learning curve in the beginning, as well as an adjustment period, because it's going to be disrupting your existing routine. So when you're trying to juggle too many of these new things simultaneously, it's going to be very draining and probably at times overwhelming. Even though this seems kind of obvious, it is still one of those rules that I see people consistently breaking. The less you have to focus on, the better you will be able to focus. Reason number 4, having no failure strategy. The question is not if you will fail or encounter obstacles during your growth journey. 100% you will encounter them and you'll probably fail multiple times. The question is, what will you do when you encounter these obstacles? More often than not, I see people just winging it, or they have an all nothing mindset. But life will happen, life will come at you, and there will be days where you are genuinely too tired or too busy and you just have to skip the activity for the day. The question is not if those days will happen. The question is, what will you do when those days arrive? So remember, if you don't plan to fail, you are planning to fail. Reason number 5, a lack of accountability. And this is a powerful one. It's easy to cheat and lie to ourselves in private. Our brains have a way of creating reasonings to justify our own behaviors. But this dramatically changes when we have someone holding us accountable, whether it is one person or a group of people. And the reason this is so powerful is because as humans, we are social creatures. And our reputation is one of the currency we use to transact in life. And the last thing you want is to tell people you're going to do something and not do it, because over time your reputation would decrease. So when you tell people what you're trying to do, you instantly give yourself a reputation to live up to.
Big reputation, big reputation. Ooh, you and me, we got big reputations.
Reason number 6, a lack of tracking. As the saying goes, what gets measured gets managed. I don't know about you, but I can barely remember what happened last Wednesday, much less recall accurately what happened in the last 2 months. Tracking is powerful for a few different reasons. First, it gives you an accurate picture of how you have been doing so far. Second, it gives you a sense of progress.
Progress. That's what I like.
And this is important because many times the goal that we are trying to achieve might seem very far away. So if you're trying to lose, let's say 10 kg, that might seem like an impossible goal from where you are. But if you're tracking it, you're able to gradually see how you're progressing over time. And lastly, tracking can also be considered as time spent into the activity itself. And the more time you spend on something, the more invested you are generally.
Invest in yourself.
For me, the act of tracking is quite similar to journaling. It is not something you have to go back and reread every single thing and try to hyper-analyze every entry. You don't have to perform complex data analysis, although it is good to get an overview, but just the very act of getting your thoughts out onto paper, of recording something, does a lot of good. Reason number 7, failing to employ the appropriate motivational tools. One of the more common ones is using rewards or punishment, and you know yourself best and which one you respond to the best. In my case, I respond to punishments more, which is why every time I'm trying to do something new or important, I try to link it to something absurd and unpleasant. For example, there was this one time where I actually failed and had to donate $100 to an organization that I really didn't support. That was somewhat traumatizing and it really did leave an impression in my mind. One thing to note here is that it is not a punishment if you say, if I fail, I would donate to charity. That doesn't really count because subconsciously you're gonna feel like even though you fail, you will still be doing something good, and that goes against the purpose of a motivational tool. If it motivates you to fail, then it is not a good tool. Reason number 8, the last and final rule that I see people breaking that lead to failure is quitting too early. And I know quitting can be a good thing depending on the situation, but more often than not, I see people quitting way too early. Typically what happens is that they try something out for a few half-baked attempts and they decide that this is not for me.
I'm done.
But more often than not, when you're trying to do something healthy and important for yourself, the benefits usually comes a bit later. It doesn't always come immediately. Let's say something like exercising. You're gonna have to go to the gym for quite some weeks before you start seeing results. And the same goes for something like meditation. In the face of a big and abstract goal that seems very distant, it can also be very demoralizing. That's why it's important to have check-ins and milestones along the way, because it's gonna do your well-being and motivation a world of good.
Oh man, we've just been watching you, just your progression, very proud of you. I feel like my little son.
Even though you're trying to get to the finishing line, remember that you don't always have to run the entire race in one breath. I'm not saying that these things are for everyone and you don't have to do them if you don't feel like it, but if you do decide to try them out, give it a fair bit of time so that you might actually come to experience the benefits of these activities. So that's it from me. I hope you found this video useful and maybe you can reflect upon your own attempts to create change in your life and see which of these 9 rules have you been breaking and how you might avoid them in the future. So let me know in the comment section below which one of these you're guilty of, which one of these resonates with the most, and which one you're most excited to try it out. If you enjoyed this video and have learned something from it, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It will really help me to grow my channel. Otherwise, I will see you out there on the internet.